Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Decisive Edge interview series, where Jewish women founders and CEOs tell the truth about their Judaic heritage, values, and family traditions. And they talk about how it has influenced how they lead and how their Jewish lineage has shaped the way they think, they decide, and the way that they show up in rooms that weren't always necessarily built for them. And I'm here to help reveal and talk about the wisdom that has been passed down through their own family generationally and talking about the stories that sometimes stop us and also the ones that have actually inspired us very deeply to a point where they've ignited a fire within each and every one of us. These conversations are meant to be raw and honest and to talk about how generations past have influenced us, to keep our legacies alive, to share the challenges that we face as well as the strengths that come from each of us knowing exactly where we came from. So everyone, please join me in welcoming Simone Bernstein to the series. Hello, Simone, how are you?
Hi, good. Thank you for having me.
Of course, you guys, it's kind of funny. Simone and I have had sort of this like DMing relationship for, I really want to say like 6 to 9 months, something to
Yeah.
that point. So I'm really, really happy to have her here with me today. Let me share a little bit more about Simone with all of you. So, Simone is the founder of Wellth Society, an in person membership community and event series for female founders who believe their health as a business owner is a competitive advantage. She built it after burning out hard enough to realize the network she needed actually didn't exist. Simone also owns a top performing Bar 3 studio in Boston and grew a permanent jewelry brand to 6 figures in just 1 year before sunsetting it to focus on wealth. She's a connector at heart, and all of her brands are about making people feel seen. So, welcome, Simone. I want to kind of start the conversation a little bit on a lighter note, right? And just have you share a little bit with our audience today. You mentioned that you grew up culturally Jewish, right? Not necessarily in a practicing household, but one where the culture of Judaism stayed really important to you. And so, what I would love to hear from your perspective is, what did it feel like growing up in your house? How do you now look back and see how Judaism was a piece of who you were becoming and how your parents raised you?
Yeah. Um, so I went to like Hebrew school. I was bat mitzvahed and all of that, but past that, we haven't really been a practicing family. Um, I think one of the biggest things is like family values and the importance of a close-knit family. Um, my family definitely like supports each other and shows up for each other with food, which I think can be a common thread in other cultures. But I definitely have a traditional like Jewish mom that if I'm sad, she asks if she can bring food over. There's a lot of support and like belief that we could do whatever we wanted and also have kind of a backup plan. So like I went to college for dance performance and choreography. And there was never a question that I was allowed to do that or wasn't encouraged to do it, but it was an and. And you
Mhm.
should have a business degree so that you can do both things and kind of have a backup plan.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I love hearing when our family supports what our dreams and wishes are. Did you ever feel like anything was there ever an image that your parents portrayed of sort of what they saw or who they saw you being? Or were your mom and dad really just allowing you to just kind of navigate your own path? Was there any of that influence anywhere?
It always was kind of like we believe in you to do whatever you want and you can make anything happen.
That's beautiful. Were your grandparents around, or I don't know if they even lived close to you, but were your grandparents involved, or did you see them very often? And was there any influence from them?
So I'm actually named after my grandmother, which in Judaism you wait until somebody passes to have a namesake. So I'm named after Grandma Simone. Growing up, I always wanted to open a dance studio called Pfaff, which is my grandmother's maiden name, Pfaff. Um, so that was always kind of a thread. And my grandfather passed away when I was 13. So like in my adult life, I haven't really had grandparents,
Mhm.
but I think as I get older, and I think we'll talk a little bit more about this, but my grandfather was the entrepreneurial spirit in our family, and I definitely take after him in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's so, you guys, her story is really fascinating, and I definitely want us to go there. I also think that there's something, it's interesting. I just got kind of a hit around, similarly, I'm named after actually my grandfather who died 2 weeks before I was born.
Wow.
And, it's interesting because a lot of times I always think about like, you know, our namesakes, right, are like there's pieces of them within each of us. And same
Mhm.
thing, like I do believe part of, who I've become and the leader that I've become is influenced by, the people that we were named after, which I think is really beautiful. What would you say is a quality that you possess that your mom probably saw in you right when she saw you come out and knew what your name was going to be? What would you say is a quality that evokes and keeps your grandmother's memory alive?
My mom always said my grandmother was what is the word I'm looking for? The graceful one, like to dance and such, and I was a dancer growing up. And then the family taking care of family. She would
Yeah,
always cook like Shabbat dinner and things like that, and she raised four children.
it's beautiful. Well, Grace, it's like, I mean, grace and dance are one and the same. So that's
Yeah.
is really beautiful, really, really beautiful. Okay, so let's talk about your grandfather because this story feels incredibly relatable for what my family history is about. So you shared a little bit with me that your grandfather left Germany as a child during the Holocaust, and
Mhm.
that his whole family left behind their business. So I'd love for you to share a little bit more about that story and what did that teach you as, an entrepreneur, as a businesswoman around, what it is that you've been inspired to build and create and how much of what you've learned from him is still running within you today.
Yeah. So, yeah, like you said, my grandfather left Germany when he was a child, and his father, my great grandfather, owned a cement factory. So there are actually two. They're called Furnace Cement Work. Um, One of them no longer exists now, but one still does. There was one in East Germany and one in West Germany. But in the 90s, when the Berlin Wall came down, one of them no longer existed. But the West Germany factory, which still exists to this day,
Wow.
after the war was basically during the war, obviously, it was taken away from the Jews and given to a German family. And after the war in the 1950s, it was the Jewish share was given back to the Jews, which was my grandfather's family. So
Mm.
it was, I believe, 50-50, and it was
Mhm.
then co-owned by both. My grandfather worked on getting restitution for the factory, and they did get compensation in the 90s. And it was really focused on the properties seized from Jewish owners under Nazi persecution. But my grandfather shared that compensation with all of the owners of the factory, including those who were not Jewish, because he thought that was the right thing to do. And that to me is how I run my businesses, with a really human approach, in that even if other people do something wrong, you can kind of be the bigger person and do the right thing at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I like my whole body has just been getting chill after chill as you were sharing that story. I mean, I feel like there is so much of his like the way I'm hearing Spirit kind of saying it right now is like his blood is in you, like his blood is
Mhm.
running through you and how it is that you're showing up. One of the things I've also read that you talk about all the time is it's really like you're also very passionate about impact, right? And impact crosses religious, race, I mean, you name it. Impact is everywhere and always across the board. And so I'm curious to know, like, I mean, that's a really powerful story, and the fact that that factory still exists in Germany is just it's mind-blowing. Have you ever gone to visit it?
I went when I was a child.
Oh
I think
wow.
when my grandfather was still alive. Yeah.
Okay. And so like I don't know. I know that you were younger, but I'm going to ask you to just kind of play with me for a little bit and see what comes up for you. But if you can go back and kind of, I don't know if you do you have a memory of going?
I think just from photos, honestly.
Okay. So if you can bring those photos, the image of those photos into your head right now, like and just kind of pretend like you're not pretend, but really visualize that you're looking at it right now. Like what comes up for you in looking at that picture and kind of being in that? I mean, you're like standing in a moment of history of from your family. Like what comes up for you around that?
An immense sense of pride. I obviously, as a child, I didn't know what I would end up doing with my life, but now that I am a business owner myself, I know just the immense impact that my grandfather had on people's lives financially and not. Um, the ability to own a company not in the country that you lived in was immensely complicated, and just the number of employees and the fact that they had to do all of that with the restrictions and the things that they had to go to is just like my life feels easy running my small business in Boston.
Right. Well, and I'm curious, I mean, from all of that and even, the pride that you felt and seeing how, leading with kindness, I'll say is kind of what you had said before. Like,
Mhm.
what else have you taken from that story that you've infused in, I mean, let's be real, all the businesses, not just Wealth Society is your newest of them all, but like how have you brought that energy into your businesses and sort of the impact that you're here to make? How are you keeping that alive? Like it's almost like I see it like this like eternal flame that you're keeping going.
Mhm. Yeah, I think even though I don't run technically a family business because it's just me, I run my businesses.
Yet.
Yeah. I run them like family businesses in the sense that I treat my employees like family, and I really want to take care of and nurture the people who work for and with me. Um, so to me, they feel like family businesses.
Yeah. Well, and you don't hear people talk about it like that as much anymore, to be honest. I don't know if you experience the same thing, but I feel very much the same way. I mean, my team that supports me, I mean, probably, smaller than the team that you maybe even have in place, but everybody that I've always brought in, like, same thing. Like, there's something about, I think it's about wanting people around you that share the same values, that share the same vision, right? It's so important that we have people surrounding us. And, you've built multiple businesses, right? You've built your Bar 3 business. You then, built a jewelry brand that you grew. And now you focus predominantly, I'm assuming, on Wealth Society, which really exists because of your own ambition and well-being, because it's something, again, like you saw a gap in the marketplace and you came in and you're like, I'm going to fill this. This is exactly what I want. And at the same time, right, you have this family history of, your grandfather lost his business that obviously took generations to build.
Mhm.
And yet on the other side, right, like your grandfather walked away, lost it, and you too walked away, right, from a thriving business. Like, I don't know if I'm sure you've seen that parallel, but like right now, I'm like, wait a second, there's these two parallels of how you've done the same thing. And so I'm curious to know, like, what have you learned about ambition? right? Like in terms of how much you're allowed to want, how much you can let go of in that process of seeking ambition, and how does that show up in what you've been able to build with Wealth Society?
Ambition is complicated, especially these days, and especially as women. I think there are so many things that society tells us ambition and success should look like, and so many different ways of accomplishing it. For so long, I had a lot of shame about earning a lot of money because I felt like I didn't deserve it, or I don't know what I felt, that I was privileged to even be able to do it as a woman. Um, but there's something about the way I run my businesses that I make money because I make an impact on people. And it's not about the amount of money that I make, it's about how I can then put the money back into the business to impact even more people.
Right. Like I always say, like money is the currency of love, right? And
Yeah.
it's about giving that love. And when we give that love, the reciprocity back is, love as a currency, right?
Mhm.
And here as humans, money is the currency that runs this world that we live in, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's so beautiful because, when you shift your perspective out of it just being a transaction, right? But instead see it as this opportunity to really give and to spread that love in the world. It's almost, I mean, my experience of what you're building is really around a movement, right? This is more than just a business for you. It's very much about a movement. And I'm curious, like, was there ever a point where your money, I'm going to call it a money story around ambition, where that may have stopped you or that you're maybe conscious of even still today that kind of comes up? Anything around that?
I definitely deal with still things like being embarrassed of the car that I drive, or things like that that I don't I don't know how to approach to this day. Like I have these stories that I don't deserve it, or that I shouldn't be putting my money into certain things because other people think that way. Um, but I don't know if I told you this, I also closed one of my fitness studios during COVID. So
Okay.
there were a lot of money stories going on then. But the biggest takeaway I had relating to money was that if I was unhappy and miserable and unwell physically and emotionally and mentally, it didn't matter how much money I made. So when I was much younger, I was in my late 20s when all of it went down. Um, I was starting to look at money very differently. I didn't necessarily want to make the most money that I could. I wanted to create a life where I had the freedom to go on vacation the way I wanted, if I wanted to, and
Mhm.
drive the car that I really was excited about. Um, but I wanted to do it in a way that was sustainable and where I felt healthy and happy.
Mhm.
So I think that is like kind of where it all ties together.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, when I've gone deeper down into some of like the money stories that were passed down, like I don't know if there's even like a narrative that you can remember from when you were growing up where there was perhaps a money story. Like in my family, for example, money was used as a way to control us. Like there was always like, and not everybody has that story. That is 100% my story where I witnessed money as a weapon to
Mhm.
use as a controlling mechanism. And I started kind of noticing how, I had started doing that with, as not everybody knows, I am divorced. And when I divorced my ex-husband, I used money as a weapon because it was, that was just kind of how I was taught, right? So that I
Mhm.
could try to, that fake sense of control. Yet when I was, in corporate for 20 years and, making an amazing salary and had a great paycheck that was coming home. Like at no point did that narrative ever appear. And so I feel like sometimes these narratives start playing out that moment that we're kind of coming up against that next ceiling of wealth that we're breaking through. And it's interesting because I feel like a lot of times it like the narrative starts coming back in and then we break through and then it kind of goes away, but yet that narrative is still kind of there, right? Playing a little bit in the background and where it may not necessarily be impacting our results as much. I also
Mhm.
would say that it actually is because it's almost like it's become this silent hum in the background that even though we may not be giving a lot of attention to it, there's still some energy that's still playing out in the background. And so I'm curious to know, you are highly successful. I don't know when you sleep, but clearly you do at
Actually
some
sleep
point.
a lot. That's my
Okay.
like one non-negotiable. I go to sleep really early and I wake up early, but because I go to sleep early. But that is my one non-negotiable always.
Okay. I love that. And so tell me, because I'm the same way. Like I go to bed early. I like waking up at like 5:30
Yeah.
because I like when my house is quiet. I have there's people other people in my house and I really love my morning. Like I feed the dog, I drink my coffee, I sit down, I journal for at least like 30 minutes. I meditate, like I have like a 5 to 10 minute meditation practice that I do myself. And it's interesting because what I've started to realize is a lot of that came from the gift that I learned as a child from my family around Shabbat, and
Mhm.
Shabbat being an opportunity to really come together to rest, right? I mean, that's really what Shabbat is all about. It's the day of rest. And I never really tied the two together, to be honest with you, until maybe about 6 months ago. Like it was that recent. And I know that Shabbat is something that has been really important to you. It's something that you, I believe, remember from when you were growing up as well. And I'm curious, like, do you now kind of see that connection for yourself as well? And how has that practice really shaped you?
So we actually didn't celebrate Shabbat
Oh,
growing up, but
interesting.
my grandfather and grandmother did. My mom always tells stories about how my grandmother would cook this like four-course meal every Friday and all of these things. And I honestly think it's from them that I think about those stories and the relationship that I have now to rest. Shabbat is, like
Mhm.
you said, that kind of forced rest, the unplugging,
Mhm.
unplugging literally from your phone and electricity in
Yeah.
order to focus on family. And when growing up for the high holidays and such, those were the days that we would do that. Even now, we don't really practice Judaism in a traditional way, but for any of the holidays, it's the time when we have dinner as a family, whether that's just me and my parents or um, my brother and his wife. It's that time to focus inward on ourselves and on family, even if it's not as traditional. And
Mhm.
it's something that I'm still working on implementing more.
Well, ditto. I mean, my last podcast was called The Power in the Pause, right? I was
Yeah.
always about the slowdown, right?
It's
The
a
moment.
practice.
It really is. It
Yeah.
100% is. And what people don't realize is that the speed comes from the slowdown, right? The momentum
Mhm.
builds when you allow yourself to slow down. And I think what a lot of us believe and why we maybe fight it, or, it feels a little bit harder than, we sometimes want it to be, is that I think that we feel like if we slow down, it's like something's going to go away, something's going to disappear, or we're going to, be back at square one. And I think that that also comes from a mindset of, rest is something that, rest is something that should be protected, right? It's something that we should honor. But yet, I think as a society, we think it has to be earned. And I think that's why we have such a hard time with that practice. And so, it kind of feels like, I don't know, I'm kind of just getting like a little bit of a download and tell me if this resonates with you or not, but it's almost like rest has become like a sacred practice for you because of what your family did experience around, things can disappear if you turn, if
Mhm.
you walk away for like, granted, your grandfather walked away because of what was going on in the world. And at the same time, there's still a little bit of that narrative around, if you slow down, everything is going to disappear. I walked away and had to give that up, right? And yet at the same time, like they gave it back, right? Like a piece of it came back. And so I'm curious if, if part of your narrative around a slowdown is relatable to any of that about, that it's something that you're afraid you're going to lose or something's going to get lost if you slow down or you pause.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially these days, there are so many people talking about burnout and rest. But on the other hand, there are a lot of really like famous entrepreneurial women talking about this in, I think, kind of a toxic way, in that they
Yeah.
say if you take your foot off the pedal, you're going to lose all momentum. And I don't think that's true. Even in my experience with, obviously, I work in fitness and I was a dancer growing up. And physiologically, like your body rebuilds and grows muscle when you're at rest. So no matter how hard you work out, if you don't rest your body, you actually aren't making progress. And it's that same mentality. Your body needs that time to rest, but so does your mind.
And I think I couldn't agree more. And it's so interesting because last night when I was in my mastermind group, both of my, I should say, two of the clients that are in there, they were both like getting mad at themselves because they were in sort of like this rest period. They're like, I haven't done anything in my business in like a week. And I'm like, well, what have you been doing? Oh, we were on vacation. That's amazing.
Mhm.
Right? And building that in. And I think that as leaders, like I believe that all of us are leaders in some capacity, right? And I think that there's so many things that as leaders we have to unlearn, right?
Mhm.
That, perhaps, I mean, I remember even, oh my God, bosses I had like, 15 years ago in corporate, that was like a whole lot. I mean, talk about unlearning what I learned in leadership. But I think that, and I know that you've said this, that you're currently unlearning this concept of like you have to do it all, right? In
Mhm.
leadership. And it's if you believe that you have to do it all, there is no time for rest, right?
Yeah.
And so, how is it that you are continuing to unlearn this? And like, what is your practice? Like, what happens when you notice yourself? Like, what do you do? Like, how do you instill that philosophy in your team as well?
I have a lot of practices. The biggest one is just putting my phone on do not disturb. And
That's
being,
big.
yeah, and being an aunt now, I feel like one of the only times when I'm really disconnected is when I'm with my nephew. It's the only time that I'm like, not the only time, but I notice it's one of the biggest times that I'm completely present and I don't want to miss a thing. But it's definitely still something I'm learning. And I used to have a lot of shame or embarrassment to tell my team at the studio that I was taking a day off or going to do XYZ and not working when they were all keeping the business running. But in the past 3 years, I've had three employees go through big life transitions and come to me and say, I need to make this change or I need to step away from the studio because I need to do less.
Mm.
And I take a lot of pride in that, in being a space where not only they feel comfortable telling me these things, but I do try to be a leader in that sense and say no to things and create more space. And seeing that come to life in my employees who are in their 20s, and making big life decisions makes me really proud.
It's awesome. That's so awesome. I'm curious, like, do you remember that moment where you finally saw that like you didn't have to carry all this by yourself, or, even just seeing in yourself that moment where you embodied exactly what you have been hoping to be as a leader in your business?
I don't know if there's an exact moment. My
That's fair.
breaking point was really during COVID when I've always had chronic pain, And obviously, owning businesses is quite stressful. And I realized the hard way that my pain can be triggered by stress, a lot of diet things and stress. And I realized that the only way I was going to get out of pain was to manage my stress and rest. So sometimes I do think you're put against a wall and you have to make this decision, like I can go on this way forever or I can make a choice and make a change.
Yeah, it's funny. There's days where I'm really good at that, and then there's other days where I'm like, oh, here comes the 2x4. Thank you,
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah. And when you tell someone like the only way to fix this is to not be stressed out, you, it's like, where do you even begin?
Well, and sometimes don't you hear yourself talking to other people and you're like, wow, that's really good advice. I should actually take that for myself.
Yes. And that's one of the reasons I started Wellth Society because I found myself telling friends or colleagues or employees these things, but no one was saying it back to me. And I wanted people who were in a similar position who would have the audacity to say it back to me and kind of put me in my place. That's what I needed.
I love that. And that is 100%. It's so funny. It's 100% me. Like my clients will call me a mirror all the
Yeah.
time, right? And even when I started my first business, I was actually a divorce coach and then I shifted into, being the intuitive oracle that I am now. And it's so interesting because, so many times my clients would say, like, you were always the kick in the ass that I knew that I needed. And because of that, like so many times they'll be like, anytime I'm in a situation, I'll go, okay, what would Wendy do? Like to the point where I'm
I
like, I
love
think I
that.
need a series that's called What Would Wendy Do?
I
Because
love
I
that.
hear it all the time.
Yeah.
Because I always say, like, I am here to love you, but I am not here to be your best friend. I am here to reflect back what it is that you can't see. And I did
Mhm.
that with one of my clients like 2 weeks ago, and she finally told me because she's been really quiet and she's like, I was so pissed at you because I like hated what you said to me. And she's like, and you were
Yeah.
right. You
Yeah.
know? And it's so interesting because it's a natural part of who I am. And it is ironic, yet not, that, you guys, I had asked Simone for like a word around like, is there a Jewish phrase or a word that like resonated with you or that you heard so many times or that kind of are a part of your value system? And you told me the word menschlichkeit, which by the way, we both had to look up phonetically to learn how to say. And it's all about being a decent, straightforward person, even in business, right? So let's go there, right? It's one that you said, it was it's a word that your mother has given to you, and you clearly have built that in Wellth Society, right? And so when you think about like not even just the women inside of the community, but like the women that will come after you, right? Like future daughters, community, founders across various industry, like what is the one thing that you want them most to inherit from you that is different from maybe something that someone in your family gave you, or maybe it's the same?
Yeah. I think being straightforward and honest with people about where you're at and what you expect from them. So many times over the past few years, I've said to managers in meetings and employees, like, somebody either said that I was being too harsh or asking for something out of the ordinary. And I said to myself, like, would anyone question a man who did this?
Probably
So
not.
having like the chutzpah almost to
Yeah.
like just show up in that honest, down to earth way and not worry about like what people think of you. I think my mom, like going back to Judaism and how I was raised, my mom has always challenged me in that way too. They, like I said, they've always been super supportive and believe in my dreams as much as I do and will show up to move them forward. And she's always asked me the hard questions of like, she's not afraid to say, well, did you look at it from that person's point of view? Or like, I actually think you're in the wrong. And that's so important. I don't want people who will placate me. I want people who love me enough to challenge me. And that's something we talk about at my studio a lot. Um, we just started kind of a different sort of feedback method where instead of waiting for reviews, we'll give feedback in the moment. And it's based off of the book Radical Candor and the idea that you have enough respect for somebody to ask more of them and to believe they are capable of more and giving them feedback to get them there.
I love that. And I think it is so incredibly important. It is actually a very vital communication skill, to be really honest with you. I mean, one of the things that I've learned about, because again, after my divorce, like I learned what a poor communicator I was, like everywhere, right? What shows
Yeah.
up in one place is showing up somewhere else. And I think that there's something so valuable in, providing feedback, right? It's like my experience of you is dot, 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 right? Or my experience, in this, room with you was da 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 da. And it's so valuable. It's not even like, if anything, I think it's not even more valuable for the other person. It's actually, it's more valuable to yourself because you're really honoring what it is that's coming up for you. And sometimes that's even so, I mean, sometimes dare I say, like it's part of a gratitude practice of like, I'm so grateful that you were able to step up in this room today. I am so grateful that, you taught an amazing class. Like people came out sweating and saying how good that was, or, oh my God, that event, like I would have never thought to incorporate this particular element, right? And it's so it's so valuable. Again, I feel like it's like this it's this circuitry. Like it's required in creating kind of like that circuitry of energy. And it's just very fascinating. Like I really like I'm seeing like it's part of how you're keeping sort of like it's what's keeping your businesses going. It's like part of your motor.
Yeah.
And I see that I love that you also talk about this is what's also dropping in that I want to ask you about is that like, and I think you mentioned a piece of this earlier, but it's about how like sometimes I feel like as women, we think that we have to sacrifice in order to, succeed, let's say, right? Or like in order for us to advance, there's some sacrifice, but you are such a beautiful stand that for women in that you actually don't have to choose,
Mhm.
right? And how do you embody that in, you know, as a business owner in the events that you host with your clients? Like, how do you like, do you have like a certain way when you walk in that, you bring that into any room that you walk into?
I've started to be more honest about the things that I do and like the time that I take off. Earlier, I mentioned that I used to be embarrassed of it.
Right.
Um, I try to share my truth in that way now to inspire other people to do it too. I it's definitely an ongoing journey. It's a constant evolution. But I just realized like I didn't want to live the rest of my life this way. Obviously, there are sacrifices you have to make if you're saving money for something or investing in something in your business, things like
Yeah.
that. But you don't have to completely self-abandon. You don't have to completely become somebody you're not. During COVID, when all my business shut down for almost 2 years because of protocols here, um, I realized I wasn't a person other than business owner. Like if somebody
Mhm.
asked me to describe myself, I couldn't think of anything else. And that to me was self-abandonment. That was getting rid of every other part of myself that I cherished in order to be like the best, most successful business owner I could be. And I realized that, like you said, you can have it all. You can be a successful business owner and spend time with your family and go on vacation. Um, and you have to make choices. You can't do it all at once in the same
Right.
day usually, but you get to decide what parts of yourself you want to show up for every day. And that doesn't, I think the biggest misconception is that that means I don't work hard. You can want to work incredibly hard and love the ambitious parts of yourself and also love the softer parts of yourself that are taking care of yourself, giving back to family and prioritizing the people you love and relationships. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I cannot echo what you said even more. I think that social media has created this facade that you have to, hustle culture, bro marketing, let's even call it. And it's bullshit. It just is. And it doesn't mean that if you don't believe in hustle culture, it doesn't mean that there aren't moments of like rapid fire where you're just like, boom, boom, boom. But it's like when
Hmm.
you are, the way that I kind of talk about it and how I, explain it in the rooms that I create is that like when you're showing up authentically as yourself, when you are in the being, the doing like that's how the rapid fire in the doing ends up happening, which then
Hmm.
enables you to build in that time for you to rest, right? And sometimes, the rest is a requirement in order for you to keep operating at that level during the time periods that you are. And I don't know a single successful, ambitious businesswoman who doesn't have some sort of a rest, and I'll even call it a wellness practice that they
Hmm.
follow. And I think what you said is just so important. And I'm going to say, like, we all get to have it all. You get to
Hmm.
have it all. I get to have it all. Everybody listening, you get to have it all. 100% you get to have it all. And it really stems from choices that you want to make. So I appreciate you saying that. Like, I am like, oh my God, like, yes. Like, it's just like, yes, thank you for saying that. And so, Simone, at the end of our interviews, I've been doing sort of like these fun rapid fire questions that it's like whatever the first thing is that comes into your mind, just pop it out, like no right or wrong. And um, the first one, of course, has to do with food because, Judaism, it's like, is there ever
Yeah.
anything where food is not involved or food is talked about? So, what does your family, or what do you prefer that your family makes? Matzo ball soup or brisket, if you had to pick one?
My mom always makes brisket.
Ah, I may have to get her recipe because I'm struggling on the brisket front. I make a badass matzo ball soup, you guys,
I
just so
will
you
say the
know.
brisket is controversial in our household, but I like it.
Okay, what makes it controversial?
My brother hates brisket, so on some Jewish holidays we don't have it anymore. Um, I think it's good.
So funny. So your mom won't make it for just you, or she'll
No,
sometimes
she will.
make
It
it.
just
Oh, she will.
depends on the holiday. Or we'll
Okay.
have like chicken and brisket
Oh,
or
got it.
like
Got
that.
it. Yeah, that's what my grandmother used to do. Is she
Yeah.
would she would make them both, but yeah, matzo ball soup is like hands down my absolute like
What's your secret?
oh, I know what my secret is. I put dill in my
Ooh,
soup.
yum.
So the dill and always parsley, but I throw dill in there and it just like I do it in my chicken noodle soup also that my boys love. And every time they
Hmm.
come home, they're like, hey, Mom, I mean, it's like 90 degrees outside. They're like, Mom, are we having chicken soup? Can you make the chicken soup? But yeah,
Oh,
dill is my secret ingredient.
I love that.
Revealed here and now to
Yeah.
everyone. You're welcome. You will thank me for those of you who make
Cookbook
soup.
next.
Dill, you don't have to like dill. Like
Yeah.
my husband, he doesn't love dill, but he knows I put it in the soup and he's like, it's so good. I was like, see, I told you. Like, just trust
Okay.
me. It's just like a little hint, like not the overwhelming of like dill in a tuna salad, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just I don't know what it is. It just works with the chicken. Anywho,
Oh.
that's my secret. Okay, rapid fire. So finish the sentence. The bravest thing I've ever done is,
Open a business at 24.
that's so good. What is one word that describes how you lead today?
Straightforward. It's kind of two words.
Ish. And what is one rule that you broke that has changed everything for you?
Hmm. Gosh, I can't think of one for this one. Maybe focusing on dating and getting married young.
That's a good one because I mean, I don't know. I was told to marry a doctor or a lawyer and get married early. So my sister got the doctor, I got the lawyer.
That's funny.
So I can relate to that
Yeah.
one. That's good. No, that's good. Okay, and my last one is if you were to ever get a tattoo on your forearm, what would it say?
Something classic, like believe in yourself.
Yeah. I love that. Mine would say, actually, I already have it planned out. It would say faith, and the writing would be my mom passed away about 4.5 years ago. And so I would actually take cards of her handwriting and to
Oh,
do the faith written in cursive because that's she had the most beautiful penmanship. Anyway, and then she sends me butterflies, but specific ones, not like butterfly, like any butterfly. And I would have that as the dot and the eye. So that's
that's
what I would say on my
beautiful.
form. Yeah, right. It's kind of
So are
cool.
you pro tattoos? In Judaism, you're not supposed, or you can't get buried in a Jewish cemetery, right?
Correct. So I do not have a tattoo.
Okay.
I am very much on the fence about how I feel about tattoos and
Sure.
with a family who, my dad's still alive, but everybody else, well, I should say, my mom's side, they're all buried in an Orthodox cemetery. My dad's
Mhm.
mom is at a conservative one, and his dad. So I don't know. Like I'm like really torn about it. It's probably why I still haven't gotten one. And
Yeah.
also, my boys are like, Mom, you can't do that. Like, where are we going to bury you? I was like, I don't know. I'm talking about it. Like, maybe it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know, like henna, and I just keep getting it redone. I don't know. How about you?
I don't have strong opinions on it. I
Yeah.
totally see why it's not allowed. I think it's like a statement to say Jews were tattooed in this way and we don't want to stand for that. And also, I don't really care what people do. And if they want to put something on their body, especially if it's a beautiful sentiment, like you were saying, like
Right.
it's your body.
I know. So I go back
You
and
can
forth.
have both. You can like respect the history and also do whatever you
Exactly. Exactly. It's what you make, it's what its meaning is to you at the end of
Yeah,
the day, right? So,
totally.
oh my gosh, Simone, this was such a great conversation. Thank you so much for being here today and for being one of these 18 conversations that I swear, like, I am so honored to be having with all of these amazing, amazing women. Thank you for being here today and for sharing yourself vulnerably. And I'd love for you to share with everybody where it is that they can find you and connect with you.
Yeah, so I'm most active on Instagram at Wellth, Wellth dot society. My personal one is private because I only post pictures of my nephew. And then on LinkedIn at Simone Bernstein.
Amazing. I love that. You guys be sure that you connect with Simone and check out the incredible work that she's doing out there in the world. Wellth Society is a great community, especially those of you who live in the Boston area. Simone, I hope to come out to one of your events if
Yeah.
that's even allowed. I would love to come out
Yeah.
and participate and just meet you and hug you in person. Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in to my conversation with Simone today. And thank you for tuning in to the Decisive Edge series, where ancient roots create modern power. I will see you guys in the next conversation. Sending so much love and light always. Mwah. Bye, everybody.